I never imagined my blind date would turn into a life-changing proposal from a millionaire CEO. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The air was electric, charged with something unknown. I could feel it prickling my skin as I walked into the dimly lit restaurant. My heart raced. They say blind dates are a gamble, but I had no idea how high the stakes would be. I took a deep breath, the aroma of garlic and herbs lingering, but all I could focus on was my trembling hands. The table was set for two, a flickering candle casting shadows that danced ominously on the wall. I wondered who would sit across from me. My stomach churned with a mix of excitement and dread. Was this a mistake? Then he walked in. Tall, confident, with an air of mystery that made my pulse quicken. His dark hair was slightly tousled, like had just come from a whirlwind. But it was his eyes that caught me off guard. They were intense, piercing through the dim light, and I felt as if they could see right into me. "Are you Jessica?" he asked, his voice deep, sending shivers down my spine. I nodded, unable to find my voice. He smiled, a slow, enigmatic smile that made my heart do somersaults. I couldn't tell if I was falling for him or if I was just caught in the spell of this moment. As we talked, laughter filled the air. It felt surreal. He revealed fragments of his life, business deals gone wrong, adventures in distant countries, and his relentless pursuit of something more. Each word struck a chord within me. I was captivated by him, yet the undercurrent of something darker tugged at my heart. "Lives too short for regrets," he declared, leaning closer. I could smell his cologne, a mix of cedarwood and something distinctly him. It was intoxicating. The evening wore on, and I found myself lost in his stories, my fears slipping away. But just as the warmth of connection enveloped us, he dropped the bomb. "I've been thinking there's something I want to ask you," he said, his tone suddenly serious. The world around us blurred, the clinking glasses and distant chatter fading into a heavy silence. My heart pounded. "I want you to marry me," he laid it out there, eyes locked onto mine. It was impossible. A million thoughts crashed through my mind. Was this for real? My breath hitched in disbelief. Around us, the restaurant seemed frozen in time, every head turning in our direction, eyes wide with shock. What was happening? My chest tightened. Could I trust him? Was I ready for this? The weight of his words hung heavy in the air, a mix of excitement and fear colliding within me. I opened my mouth to respond, but no sound came out. He smiled, a bittersweet kind of smile. "I know it sounds crazy, but sometimes the best things happen in the most unexpected ways." The moment felt suspended, my heart racing while my mind scrambled for clarity. Was I really willing to step into this wild whirlwind he offered? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The days that followed the proposal felt like slipping through the sands of time, each moment heavy with promise and uncertainty. I returned home that night, the echo of his words still reverberating in my mind. "I want you to marry me." A love-struck impulse collided with the voice of reason, which whispered doubts in my ear as I lay in the quiet of my darkened room. Morning light crept through the curtains, igniting the room in a soft golden glow, yet I felt encased in shadows. I paced the floor, replaying our brief encounter and trying to discern if the spark I felt was genuine or just an illusion crafted by the excitement of the moment. My phone buzzed with a message, his name illuminating the screen sent warmth rushing to my cheeks. "Jessica, I can't stop thinking about you. Can we meet again? There's so much to discuss." The possibility of seeing him again stirred a fragile sense of hope within me. I replied, my fingertips trembling over the keyboard, choosing my words carefully. I'd like that. My heart fluttered at the thought of sitting across from him once more, but a part of me fearfully anticipated that reality might shatter the fantasy. When we met, he brought me to a beautiful park blooming with cherry blossoms, the air fragrant with springtime. His presence felt like a soothing balm to the uncertainty gnawing at me. As we strolled beneath the blossoming trees, he spoke passionately about his work, his dreams. Every word washed over me in waves of warmth. But the momentary bliss faded as the shadows of his world began to creep in. The truth is, Jessica, my life isn't as perfect as it seems. It isn't just about love. There are pressures, expectations, there are people who won't just let me walk away from my responsibilities. His gaze fell, and I sensed the burden he carried was heavier than I had imagined. That I dared to probe softly, seeking answers. What kind of responsibilities? His jaw tightened, a flicker of pain crossing his features. I run a company, big one. There are deals, and people depend on me. If I marry, I can't afford to fail. I won't be able to give you what you deserve if I can't get my life together first. His vulnerability shattered my heart. I reached out, placing my hand on his arm, trying to ease that tension. I'm not looking for perfection. I just want you, no matter what your life looks like. He looked at me, his eyes reflecting a mix of gratitude and sorrow. But it might be painful for you to be around me while I navigate this chaos. I wouldn't want to drag you down. Before I could respond, a sharp ring shattered our intimate moment. It was his phone. He answered with a wary look that transformed his countenance, masking his vulnerability under the weight of a corporate world. I could only stand helplessly by, watching as he nodded, taking in information I could not grasp, his playful demeanor replaced by the seriousness of a different life. Yes. I'll be right there, he said tersely. He hung up, and I felt a chill radiate from him, as if he were retreating into a shell. I have to go. A meeting I can't miss, he said, checking his watch. I'm so sorry. Can we talk more later? I smiled, trying to mask the heartbreak that gnawed at me. Of course. He walked away, and part of me wished to call him back, to demand explanations, but the fear that it might push him further away held me back. As I made my way home, a growing unease filled the pit of my stomach. His world was so complex, so tangled. There was something about his phone call that unsettled me, a thread of secrecy I desperately wanted to unravel. That evening, I paced restlessly in my apartment, contemplating what to do next. I thought of the commitment he had laid before me, one that felt like it hung in a delicate balance. Just as I sat down, a loud knock broke through the stillness. It was unexpected. Hesitant, I opened the door, my heart racing as curiosity battled with apprehension. Standing in the hallway was an unfamiliar woman, her eyes sharp and probing. Are you Jessica? I need to speak with you. Her presence was commanding, cloaked in urgency that sent prickles of dread through me. Before I could gather my thoughts, she continued, It's about Ethan. You need to know the truth. The ground shifted beneath my feet, and in that moment, the weight of secrets and futures collided, leaving me teetering on the edge of the unknown. The woman stepped inside, her gaze sweeping across my modest living room. I closed the door behind her, suddenly aware of how frail my world felt under the weight of her presence. She looked like someone who commanded respect, but there was an urgency in her demeanor that unnerved me. Who are you? I managed to ask, my voice trembling slightly. That I am Rachel, she said, her tone clipped. I work with Ethan. That's why I'm here. Each word seemed laden with a gravity I couldn't quite understand. That I gestured for her to sit, my heart pounding as she settled herself on the edge of my couch. What's this about? Is he in trouble? Her lips pressed tightly together for a moment, as if she were choosing her words with care. Ethan's at a crossroads, and you need to know what you're getting into. There are things about him that are complicated. That I felt my breath hitch, and dread surged at the thought of what she could reveal. What do you mean? I can't disclose everything, but Ethan has a lot on his plate, more than you can imagine. He's not just a CEO, he's also tangled up in family obligations that he's trying to escape. They lean heavily on him, and the pressures they're immense. If he decides to pursue this relationship with you, it won't only affect him, it'll draw you into a relentless maelstrom. That I shook my head, frustration bubbling up inside of me. I care for him. He's honest and kind. I can handle whatever chaos comes with being with him. Rachel leaned in, her expression softening slightly. It's not about what you can handle. It's about how deep this goes. Ethan doesn't just answer to himself. He's caught in a dark web of expectations and power plays within his family's business. They won't let him go that easily. This isn't just a marriage proposal, it's a stepping stone for Thema Formula to solidify their control. A chill wove through me as her words twisted tighter around my heart. Part of me wanted to dismiss her concern as mere speculation, but the serious line of her face weighed heavily on my chest, forcing me to confront the reality that I had previously skimmed over. What do you want from me? I finally asked, my voice barely above a whisper. I need you to think carefully about your choices, Jessica. If you love him the way you say you do, you must understand the battle you're signing up for. These don't just involve your lives, they could impact everything you know and love. That I felt trapped in her words, my world slowly constricting around me. Love should be a garden of blooming possibilities, not a battlefield riddled with traps and snares. I won't let him go without a fight, I said defiantly, although a flicker of doubt sparked in my mind. Rachel nodded slowly, perhaps admiring my tenacity but also perhaps pitying my naivete. Then you need to prepare yourself. Because when it comes down to it, his family will not take no for an answer. They will do whatever it takes to keep him tethered to them, including tearing you apart. That I sat back, the weight of her words a suffocating fog. Moments passed in silence as I battled the rising tide of emotions. Fear, anger, and the bitter sting of betrayal threatened to break through the surface. That I don't want to be stuck in his family's shadows, I said finally, my voice cracking under the strain. But I can't just walk away from him either. Rachel's eyes softened for a moment, and she reached out, squeezing my hand. You have to tell him about this conversation. Be honest about how you're feeling. Trust him to make decisions that involve you. But remember, the fight won't just be against his family, it'll be against a world beyond what you can see. As she rose from her seat, I felt more lost than when she entered. The unresolved feelings of love intertwined with the gnawing uncertainty intensified the emotional torment within me. Just as she reached the door, she turned back. Please, Jessica. Whatever happens next, protect your heart. You deserve to be loved freely, not as a pawn in a larger game. With that, she disappeared into the night, leaving behind an emptiness that echoed with questions and fears. I stood silent, absorbing her warning, yet my determination wouldn't let me retreat. That night, sleep came reluctantly. Shadows danced across my walls, fading into dreams where love was simple, unencumbered by corporate responsibilities or family expectations. But every time I reached out for him, those dreams morphed into haunting visions of him trapped in chains of obligation, looking back at me with despair in his eyes. By morning, I knew what I needed to do. I couldn't let the darkness of his world overwhelm the light we shared. I needed to have that conversation, but as I prepared, a chill swept over me. If loving him meant losing myself too, as I stared at my phone, contemplating whether to text him or not, it buzzed unexpectedly, sending shockwaves through my body. The screen lit up with a message from Ethan, but it wasn't a sweet invitation or just a simple hello. That I need to talk. There's something you should know about my family. Suddenly, dread intertwined with the flicker of hope, and I felt as if I were standing on the edge of a precipice, staring down into an abyss where everything, the truth, our love, hung dangerously in the balance. The message hung in the air, a ghostly echo of possibilities and peril that made my heart race. I hesitated for a moment, wrestling with the conflicting emotions throbbing in my chest. Should I respond immediately, or give him time to sort through whatever turmoil lay beneath his words? The sun poured through my window, casting a warm glow that felt almost mocking in the wake of the looming shadows I had just been introduced to. My fingers danced across the screen, hovering above the reply button, before I found the courage to type, "I'm here for you. Whenever you want to talk, I'm ready." That I hit send, then wrapped my arms around myself as if I could find comfort in my own embrace. The minutes dragged, each tick of the clock heavier than the last. Anxiety settled in my bones as I replayed Rachel's warning. Would loving Ethan mean accepting not only his joys but also the burdens that came with his family's expectations? With my heart racing, I pushed my thoughts aside. I had made my choice, the light of our connection was worth enduring the uncertainties. Just as I resolved to stand strong, my phone buzzed again. It was him. Can we meet at the cafe near my office? We need to talk face to face. It's important that I read the message 3 times before responding, willing my heart to steady. Of course. I'll be there in 30 minutes. The cafe was a cozy little spot, a stark contrast to the weight of the conversation looming ahead. As I approached, I tried to imagine how I would react to whatever Ethan had to share. The warm scent of freshly brewed coffee surrounded me, but it did little to comfort my frayed nerves. I settled into a corner table, my hands wrapped around a cup of tea to fend off the chill creeping into my bones. Ethan entered shortly after, his presence commanding yet softer than usual, illuminated by the sunlight pouring in through the windows. When our eyes met, a flicker of something fear, perhaps, passed between us, underscoring the gravity of the moment. He slid into the chair opposite me, and I could sense an unspoken tension bristling in the air. "Thank you for coming," he began, his voice steady yet tinged with an edge of vulnerability. "I know things have been complicated. Rachel spoke to me last night." His brow furrowed, surprise etched across his features. "You spoke to Rachel? What did she say?" I took a deep breath, ready to barge through the walls of uncertainty that shielded my heart. "She warned me about your family, about the expectations, obligations. I want to know the truth, Ethan. Not just the glossy version. What's really going on?" He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture that underscored the weight he carried. It's not what you think, Jessica. My family operates in a world that demands respect and power, and they want me to take over the business." His gaze dropped to the table, shame and frustration mingling in the silence. "Why don't you want that?" I pressed, trying to hold his focus. That he looked up, the ocean blue depths of his eyes troubled as they searched mine. "Because it's never what I wanted. I've fought against it for years, but every time I try to break free, they tighten their grip. They've woven a future for me, one where I'm not living my life but theirs. And now." He hesitated, his voice faltering. "Now, I have someone to protect, and that complicates everything." The vulnerability in his eyes caught me off guard, almost making me forget the storm brewing around us. "You're scared about what we have, what this could all mean, more scared than you can imagine," he confessed. "If this goes south, it's not just me who will suffer the consequences. It'll too. My family doesn't just play games, they destroy anyone who disrupts their plan." The weight of his unspoken fears settled between us, thick and heavy. I wanted to reach across the table, to bridge the emotional chasm that felt impossibly wide, but doubt rooted me to my seat. "That if your family is so powerful, can you really break free? Do you believe you can choose me?" My voice felt small in the expansive cafe, each word a delicate thread that could unravel. "That I want to choose you more than anything," he said, his gaze firm and purposeful. "But love isn't always enough to conquer the forces that bind us." Just as the enormity of it all threatened to drown us, the door swung open with a rush of air, pulling both our eyes toward the entrance. A figure stepped in, cloaked in an air of authority that instantly tangled my good. A tall man in a tailored suit, with an unmistakable presence that made the atmosphere shift. My heart sank as I recognized him, the fear radiating off Ethan like heat. "It's just a matter of time," he barely whispered, almost to himself as the man's gaze swept over us, locking onto our table. Panic surged within me as I caught the flicker of hesitation in Ethan's expression. The intrusive figure walked forward with purpose. I could almost feel the fabric of the world unraveling around us, a storm building that threatened to swallow our fragile moment. And at that pivotal instant, with the door of our future swinging ever wider, we faced the unknown together, our hearts intertwined, yet precariously teetering on the edge of a cliff. The tension in the cafe thickened, and I could feel the world around us fading into nothingness as all focus tunneled on the increasing threat that the man in the suit represented. Every heartbeat echoed louder in my ears, drowning out the comforting hum of ambient conversation and the clatter of coffee cups. Ethan's expression shifted from surprise to something deeper, defiance mixed with fear. I could hardly catch my breath as the stranger approached our table with an air of authority that draped him like an impenetrable cloak. I stole a glance at Ethan, trying to gauge how deeply this man was intertwined in his life, and my heart sank at the storm brewing in those blue depths. "Ethan," the man intoned, his voice smooth yet commanding, "your father wanted me to find you." "Don't you dare," Ethan snapped back, his voice raw with emotion, but it came out weaker than intended. An ember of anxiety flickered in his expression, illuminating the vast chasm of his fears. My mind flickered through 100 scenarios: what this man wanted, what he might say, and more importantly, how it would alter our fragile connection. "Your choices affect more than just you," he continued, his tone low and measured, making each word feel like a stone thrown into a calm pond, sending ripples throughout our lives. "You need to reconsider your position. The business can't wait, and neither can your duty to the family." "I've made my choice," Ethan said, an edge of defiance creeping back into his voice. But it was laced with uncertainty. "You don't get to decide what I want." "This isn't a game, Ethan," the man responded, his eyes narrowing. "It's about legacy, and you are jeopardizing everything your family has built. You have responsibilities. You know this." Every word felt like a dagger, piercing the bond Ethan and I were desperately trying to forge. I wanted to scream out, to tell him that the only responsibility he had was to his own happiness, but the conflict boiling in the air muted my voice. "Leave me alone," Ethan shot back, but the conviction was faltering. I could see the wheels turning in his mind, the desire to defy his family crumbling before the weight of their expectations. The man leaned in, lowering his voice. "You think you can walk away without consequences? You have a future to secure, Ethan. You can't keep running. This relationship," he gestured between us with disdain, "will only disrupt the very foundation of your standing. This girl is not part of your world. It's time you accepted that." The venom in his words felt suffocating, and my heart twisted painfully in my chest. I wanted to scream, to push back, to fight for what we were building, but the hope I had felt just moments ago evaporated under the man's cold gaze. "Jessica," Ethan started, a flood of emotions playing across his face. But I was frozen, caught in a whirlwind of doubt and reality. I could feel the ground beneath my feet shifting, threatening to pull me away from everything we had shared. "Ethan," I breathed, my voice trembling, "we can't let him dictate our choices. You deserve to live for yourself, not for them." Before he could respond, the stranger straightened, casting me a dismissive look filled with unspoken warning. "You don't know what you're getting into, girl. When the frost settles, those with the warmth in their heart often suffer the most." Ethan flinched at that, and the resolve draining from his face was the last shred of hope I had held on to. I reached for his hand, searching his eyes. "Please, don't let them take this away from us." But just as our fingertips brushed the faint warmth igniting like a match in the darkness, the man's phone rang, cutting through the heavy air like a scythe. He stepped back, answering with a curt nod, but Ethan's expression had already begun to shift from defensive to resigned. I could sense the very foundation of his determination crumbling. "Ethan, please," I implored, my voice barely above a whisper. The stranger hung up, his lips drawing into a thin line. "You have one chance to choose your path before it's sealed. You know your father's unforgiving. Think wisely." He turned on his heel, striding away, leaving only confusion and despair in his wake. "Ethan," my voice was a desperate plea, but he looked down at our hands and then back to the empty cafe around us, blinking as if waking from a dream. "I don't know what to do, Jess." But before he could finish, the man turned back, a finality in his gaze. "Let this be your last warning, Ethan. You have time, but time is a luxury you may not afford." The air felt charged, as if the universe itself was tensing, bracing for what came next. The weight of his words loomed as heavy as an impending storm, each drop marking the ticking clock over our fate. As the door swung shut behind the man, leaving a silence that felt like a vacuum, Ethan's face contorted with fear and heartache. "I might have to make a choice soon, and I don't want to drag you into this." The fear gripped my heart tightly, and we sat in the aftermath, the slight touch of our fingers the only thing keeping us tethered as reality loomed on the horizon. I had stepped into his life, and now we were both caught in a web of consequences, each thread tugging us toward an uncertain fate, and just like that, a ghost of a thought plagued my mind. What if, in the throes of this struggle, I lost him not just to his family, but to the very fear that had clasped his heart? The dawning realization sank deep. Love was a brave fight, but sometimes it felt as if the world itself conspired against it. The tension crackled in the space between us, each heartbeat threatening to shatter what we had fought so hard to build, leaving me questioning everything as shadows encroached once more. The cafe was still, the murmur of conversation fading into distant echoes as the emotional weight of the encounter dissolved into the fragile silence between us. Ethan's hand lingered in mine, its warmth a stark contrast to the icy dread creeping into my chest. Every second that passed felt like a countdown. His father's name loomed like a ghost between us, each heartbeat taking us closer to a decision that could shatter everything. That I didn't want you to find out this way, Ethan said, barely above a whisper. His voice trembled, betraying the facade of defiance he tried to maintain. I just wanted to be normal. That I searched his eyes, desperate to pierce through the fear that darkened them. Ethan, normal isn't a thing we have to chase. We can rewrite the rules if we want to. He shook his head slowly, the vulnerability in his gaze weighing heavy. But what if it's not that simple? What if I really have to choose? I squeezed his hand, willing my warmth to seep into him. Then let's choose together. You're not alone in this. But as the cafe door swung open to let in a rush of cool air, the moment shattered. A couple walked in, laughter spilling from them like sunlight, and around them, life continued. I felt as if we were trapped in our own little bubble, isolated from the world's normalcy, our fears and anxieties becoming a chasm that widened with each passing moment. Ethan looked over, his expression darkening as he watched the couple. "You see that?" he murmured, nodding to the laughter that filled the room. "They'll never understand that." I turned back to him, my heart aching with empathy. "It's true. But they also don't know what it's like to carry the weight of expectation. Soft legacy." I paused, gauging my next words carefully, willing to reach for the thread that held us together. "Ethan, I don't need a perfect life. I just need you, your happiness, your heart. That's what matters." His brow creased as he looked down at our intertwined hands. A flicker of doubt still flickered in his eyes, but I saw a glimmer of something else, something hopeful emerging through the fog. "You really mean that?" "Of course," I replied, my voice soft. "We can navigate this. I believe in us." But even as I spoke, I felt the churning dread of uncertainty clawing at my stomach. This wasn't just about us. It was about choices, loyalty, and the suffocating grip of his family's expectations. Time felt like an invisible force pushing us closer to an inevitable climax. Just then, my phone buzzed softly in my pocket. I pulled it out, my heart quickening as I saw an unfamiliar number flash across the screen. I shot a glance at Ethan, his attention still focused on the couple, and answered. "Jessica." The voice on the other line was stern, unmistakably authoritative. "This is William Harrington. I support Mr. Carter's business interests, and I need you to know he's serious about this." "About what?" I asked, a shiver running down my spine. "About your relationship with him. This isn't just a casual affair. If you care for Ethan, you'll need to ensure he understands the stakes." My breath caught in my throat. "What do you mean?" "His future, the business it's intertwined with, his commitment to the family. If he chooses you, there will be consequences. I can't guarantee his safety." That I glanced at Ethan, who was now openly watching the couple, his expression lost in thought. "What do you want from me?" I pressed, desperation clawing at my words. "That I'm not here to threaten you. I'm here to offer clarity. If you're willing to separate from him for the greater good, then we can arrange for a generous settlement. A means to keep you both out of harm's way." The world around me blurred as confusion ricocheted in my mind. "You think I would abandon him? Just like that? This is his legacy, Jessica. You might not comprehend the depth of this decision. Choose wisely, for once he decides, there may be no turning back." The line went dead. I stood frozen, the weight of every word crashing over me like cold water. I felt my heart race, realization flooding in like a tidal wave. My relationship with Ethan was much more than what I had imagined. It had woven itself into the fabric of something monumental, something that could change the course of our lives. Ethan looked over at me, concern knitting his brow. Who was that? You look pale. Someone who warned me about your family's influence, I stammered, the heaviness of the conversation weighing down my voice. They said there would be consequences if you chose to be with me. Ethan's expression shifted instantly from confusion to a storm of emotions: hurt, fear, anger, and it was a reflection of my own tumult. What did they say? He pressed, gripping my hands tighter. They said I may need to consider to back away for your own sake, I admitted, my voice trembling. No. Ethan stood, his voice an urgent whisper, filled with determination. I won't accept that. I won't let anyone dictate our truth. But before I could respond, my phone buzzed again, this time with a text. The name flashed across the screen: his father. My stomach dropped as a chill swept through me, and I felt the ground beneath us shift once more. Ethan, I breathed, a sense of impending danger coursing through me. I think we're running out of time. At that moment, the door opened once again, and in walked a woman dressed impeccably, a sharp gaze scanning the room, landing directly on us. Fates were shifting, and the veil of safety we had clung to was unraveling before our eyes, revealing a world of uncertainty and fear. Ethan Carter. She called, her voice low and unwavering, an ominous thunderhead on the horizon. An overwhelming dread washed over me, sending shivers down my spine. This was just the beginning, and I knew all too well that the battle for our love had morphed into something far more treacherous. The cafe, once a sanctuary, now felt like a cage that held our fears captive. I could see the storm brewing in Ethan's eyes as he turned to face the woman who called his name. Every nerve in my body tingled with aversion. This was no ordinary visitor. Ethan Carter. She repeated, her tone like ice. He hesitated, but the silence between us stretched thin, demanding an answer. Yes. He managed, his voice steadier than I felt. That I am here on behalf of your father, she said, her expression inscrutable. We need to talk. The words fell like lead, heavy and foreboding. My mind raced, searching for any semblance of reassurance, but all that emerged was unease. Ethan, we don't have to. He shot me a look, filled with equal parts resolve and dread. No, Jess. I need to know what this is about. The woman gestured for him to step outside the cafe, her demeanor commanding. I felt my heart drop as he moved to follow, an internal battle raging within me. I couldn't let him go alone. I wouldn't allow anyone to dictate the conversation that was meant to be a dialogue between us. Wait. I called, rushing after him. If she's talking to you about your father, I should be there too. Without a hint of empathy, the woman turned her gaze on me, her eyes steely and cold. This is a family matter, and I suggest you respect that. The tension in my chest tightened like a vice. This concerns both of us, I insisted, surprising myself with the determination in my voice. If it involves your future, I should be included. Ethan paused, looking back at me. In that brief moment, I caught a glimpse of the turmoil in his heart, a reflection of my own. He stepped closer, his voice a soft plea. You really want to be a part of this? How could I not? I replied, battling my own fear. We're in this together, right? Finally, he nodded, a look of gratitude crossing his face, but that gratitude quickly gave way to fear as the woman's words echoed in my mind: consequences. She rolled her eyes slightly, as if annoyed at our defiance. But after a moment, she relented with a reluctant sigh. Fine. But keep your comments to a minimum. I'm not here to entertain questions. As we stepped outside, a sudden rush of cool air hit us, snapping me out of my daze. The city bustled around us, but here, beneath the shadow of impending dread, it felt unforgiving. I took Ethan's hand again, reminding him that we were still standing together in this chaotic moment. Let's just listen, I whispered, trying to calm the anxiety swirling between us. He nodded, although doubt still clouded his features. The woman led us to a secluded corner of the street, her sharp eyes darting around as if wary of being overheard. "Your father is concerned about your recent choices," she began, the air around us thickening. "Your relationship with Jessica complicates matters, Ethan." My heart raced, the world around us shrank as I focused solely on her words. "There are expectations, legacies to uphold, and you need to understand that this family does not tolerate distractions." "What does that even mean?" Ethan snapped, anger igniting within him. "I'm not a pawn in some game. Your father views it as a prioritization of your duties," she replied coolly, reminding me of a snake ready to strike. "You will either choose the family and its interests or you will face the consequences. A choice, Ethan, that will not only affect your future but Jessica's too." I felt Ethan's grip on my hand tighten, the heat of his anger pulsing through me. "You're saying I have to give her up? That's your proposal?" "It's not a proposal," she clarified, her voice icy. "It's a warning. Your choices have ramifications. Choose wisely." Suddenly, my phone vibrated again, and I fished it out of my pocket, praying for some glimmer of hope amidst the darkness that surrounded us. But the name on the screen froze me in place, Ethan's father. Before I could stop myself, I pressed the answer button, and my voice trembled out, "Mr. Carter." "Jessica. You're in over your head," he warned, his voice dripping with authority. "Walk away now, for both your sakes. This is your only chance to leave this behind." I exchanged a glance with Ethan, the shock in his eyes mirroring my own. "How can you say that? You don't even know us. Trust me, you don't want to know what lies ahead. I can ensure that neither of you will suffer, but it means distancing from each other." The air thickened with tension, and my heart pounded violently against my chest. What could you possibly offer to make me leave him behind? Security, a life free of complications. Perhaps a considerable settlement if you're compliant. Next to me, Ethan's body stiffened as he processed the realization of what his father was implying. "You think I'm going to let you buy her off like some prize?" "Ethan, stop," I pleaded, stepping closer to him. "Please, just listen." But the woman interrupted, her voice rising with impatience. "This isn't about winning or losing. It's about understanding that some truths are too heavy to bear. Protect yourself.no." Ethan shouted, his voice breaking. "You don't get to decide what's best for me." He turned sharply, shoving his way past the woman, but I gripped his arm. "Where are you going? I can't stand here while they try to control my life." Ethan snapped, frustration spilling over. "Neither can I," I breathed, anticipation knotting inside me. "But walking away won't solve anything. They'll only tighten their grip and force us apart, Ethan. We need to find a way to face this together." At that moment, the woman's phone rang, and her expression shifted like a predator sensing an opportunity. "I need to take this," she stated curtly, stepping away from us. Ethan looked torn, his gaze flickering between the retreating figure and the broiling conflict inside him. That was our moment. Our chance to escape the world we knew was closing in around us, weaving its way through the lines of our choices. As the woman stepped out of earshot, I grabbed Ethan by the shoulders, forcing him to meet my gaze. "We have to decide, now. Whatever else they say, you matter to me more than this." A flicker of doubt crossed his face, battling the fervor of his emotions. "What if it's too dangerous? What if I lose everything?" I shook my head, urgency pouring from my voice. "What's the worst that could happen if we fight? We cannot give in to fear. Well, figure out a way or we won't. Well, face it together, whatever the cost." In the heart of chaos, love ignited within us, fierce and resolute. Yet, uncertainty loomed as I caught a glimpse of the woman's form re-entering the cafe. It suddenly dawned on me danger wouldn't just come from Ethan's family but from the lengths they might go to control his fate. "I'm not leaving you," I breathed, determination swelling within, but just then, something shifted in the space between us. The woman had turned, her eyes narrowing as she spoke into her phone, her voice barely above a whisper. Prepare the next step. We can't lose Ethan this time. I instinctively reached for Ethan, but in that moment, clarity struck as I recognized the true stakes of our battle. And as I stood facing a world of impending chaos, I felt the ground beneath us tremble once again, hinting at the unraveling threads of destiny pulling us under, leaving us to wonder if love alone could sustain us through the looming storm. The wind whipped around us, carrying with it the weight of unspoken fears and desperate hopes. I could feel Ethan's pulse racing beneath my fingertips, a synchrony of heartbeats that underscored the gravity of our predicament. I scanned the swirling chaos around us, flashing neon lights, hurried footsteps, honking cars. Everything felt alive, yet we were trapped in a moment that felt achingly still. "Jessica," he murmured, his voice tremulous. "What do you think they'll do?" I hesitated, the weight of the woman's words echoing ominously in my mind. "I don't know, but we can't just accept their terms. We need to find our own way out of this." But deep down, an unsettling fear slithered through me. What if we didn't have the power to change anything? The implications of Ethan's father's words stretched out before us like an insurmountable wall. Could love truly overcome the labyrinth of wealth, expectation, and control that seemed intent on tearing us apart? Ethan's eyes bore into mine, a desperate plea mingling with suspicion. What if we can't handle it? What if fighting back only makes things worse? "I don't care," I whispered, my voice barely carrying over the bustling city noise. "No matter what happens, I want you to know that you're not alone in this fight." A flicker of hope ignited within him, and I could sense the tension slowly begin to dissolve between us. Just then, the woman reappeared, her phone still pressed to her ear, her expression unreadable. "We'll finish this later," she said coldly, only partially acknowledging our presence before leaving again, her heels clicking rhythmically against the pavement. "Ethan," I said, trailing after her for a moment, torn between the urge to follow her and the need to stay beside him. "We can't let her divide us." Frustration proved to be a volatile fuel for Ethan. He paced a few steps away as if trying to outrun his racing thoughts. "What do we do now?" "We've got to face it, but how?" Suddenly, from behind us, a gentle voice disrupted our heightened emotions. "Excuse me, are you two okay?" We turned to find an elderly woman, her kind eyes sparkling with concern. She stood just a few feet away, her cane resting at her side. Her warm demeanor was like a beacon of warmth amidst the coldness that enveloped us. "Are you in trouble?" she asked cautiously, taking a step closer. "No, it's okay," I replied, forcing a reassuring smile. "Just a family matter." She didn't seem convinced, her gaze darting between the two of us, catching the fear splayed across our faces. "You don't need to say anything if you don't want to. But sometimes, it helps to talk." There was something grounding about her presence broke the storm swirling in my heart, urging me to share the weight I carried. "We're just trying to figure out a way to stand up against some family pressure," I admitted quietly. She nodded knowingly. Family matters can be daunting. Sometimes people forget that love can be a stronger force than fear. Ethan's expression softened, and in that moment, I felt a flicker of hope, fragile yet insistent. As the woman spoke, the clouds that had shadowed our hearts lifted just a little. "Thank you," Ethan said, his voice sincere. "It's just complicated. Complications are part of love. Never allow anyone to convince you otherwise," she said, her gentle smile steadying our uncertain minds. "But remember to listen to your hearts. Trust what matters to you." As she turned to leave, a small glimmer of gratitude sparked within me. Could we really choose love over everything else? Her words lingered in the air, hanging like a fragile promise. But what if we fail? Ethan's voice was barely a whisper as we stood there together, uncertainty etched into every feature. I squeezed his hand, grounding us both. "Then we face it together. Whatever happens, we will figure it out." Before he could respond, my phone buzzed again, jolting me from that moment of clarity. It was a message from an unknown number. My heart raced as I opened it. "I know what the family is planning. Meet me tonight, if you want to protect him." A shiver ran down my spine. "Ethan, what is it?" he asked, eyes locking onto mine. I gulped, anxiety creeping in. I just got a message someone knows what's going on, and they want to meet. Fear gnawed at the edges of my resolve. What if it's a trap? Then we walk in together. If this could help us find a way out, we have to take it seriously, he declared, determination settling on his features. Tonight? I asked, betrayal of excitement and dread twisting within the pit of my stomach. We can't ignore it. But, his voice faltered as he looked at me, conflicted. What if this is too dangerous? Tension flooded the air again, whispers of alarm lurking just beneath our skin. It's a risk, but so is staying in the dark, I said. We can't afford to stand still anymore. Ethan's eyes softened, yet the doubt remained. Are you sure about this, Jess? We could just walk away. No, I interrupted, a sudden intensity spilling from my heart. If we don't move now, we might lose everything, each other, our future. With resolve, he nodded, but the weight of unspoken fears still hung between us like a looming cloud. Okay. Well, meet them. But promise me we stay on our toes. Always, I affirmed, squeezing his hand once more. As we stood anchored in that uncertain moment, the realization of what lay ahead began to sink in. A ragged breath escaped me as uncertainty wove through my heart, an invisible thread tying us to the unknown. Yet even as fear clawed at the edges, a deep-rooted fight surged to life within me, a desperate determination to hold on to what mattered most. It was a battle against shadows of legacy and obligation, but in that conflict, I knew one thing was clear: hope flickered in the darkness, and no matter what challenges awaited, we would face them together. But just as we were turning to leave, I spotted the woman again, standing in the shadows of the cafe, phone still in hand. She watched us intently, a knowing smile creeping across her lips. A chill raced down my spine as the realization sunk deep: whatever lay ahead wasn't just about Ethan and me anymore. The storm was gathering around us, and the time for hiding was swiftly running out. The evening air was thick with tension as Ethan and I prepared to meet our mysterious informant. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows that danced on the pavement. An unsettling mix of excitement and dread simmered between us, wrapping around us like a heavy fog. Do you really think this person can help us? Ethan asked, his voice laced with uncertainty that I rubbed my thumb over my palms, trying to soothe the anxiety pooling in my chest. I don't know. But we can't keep waiting for things to change on their own. He studied the ground, deep in thought. What if they're working for my father? What if this is just a ploy to get us to come out of hiding? Then we'll be prepared for it. Together, I said, trying to instill a sense of courage that I didn't quite feel myself. As we approached the meeting spot, a secluded corner by the river, dimly lit by flickering lampposts, my heart raced. I kept scanning our surroundings, the dark waters mirroring my inner turmoil. What if we suddenly regret this? Ethan's voice was barely above a whisper, echoing the doubts tangled in my mind. We don't have to know where this will lead us, I said, frustration leaking into my tone. We just have to trust ourselves to navigate whatever worries come our way. Before Ethan could respond, a figure emerged from the shadows. A tall man, clad in a leather jacket, stepped forward with an air of confidence that contrasted sharply with our trepidation. His face was partially obscured, but his piercing gaze locked onto us. Jessica. Ethan. He called, his voice smooth and steady despite the tension suffocating the air. Yes. I managed, my heart thudding audibly in my chest. I am Donovan. I know what your family is planning for you. And I can help. The weight of his words sank in like an anchor, pulling me down into the depths of uncertainty. How do you know what they're planning? He hesitated, glancing around as if gauging our trust. I have my sources. I could have easily let this situation unfold without intervening, but I've seen what your families do to people, to those who stand in their way. You deserve a choice. Ethan echoed, a hint of skepticism coloring his tone. Donovan nodded, embarking on a meticulously crafted explanation. He painted a picture of deep-rooted connections, revealing that our families were entwined in ways we'd never fully comprehended. Your father has plans to separate you, Ethan. He feels your relationship with Jessica is a threat to his carefully cultivated empire. If you don't act soon, he may cut all ties. Why would you help us? I asked, my mistrust lingering in the air like smoke. Because I once stood where you are now, afraid and alone, he said, the sincerity in his voice unabashed. I chose to fight. But I realize how difficult it can be when you're standing at the crossroads of love and duty. Ethan's pallor shifted. And what do you want in return? Just a chance to right a wrong, Donovan said, his gaze unwavering. I want to expose the truth. If you're willing to take this step with me, we can create a distraction, one that'll force your families to rethink their strategies. What kind of distraction? I asked, feeling the familiar weight of uncertainty grow heavier in my stomach. That a public display, one that shows you're united. Something bold enough to sway public perception and your family's influence, he explained, an idea glimmering in his eyes. You can raise an army of supporters. Sounds risky, Ethan countered, an edge to his voice. What's to stop them from retaliating? Exactly what we want. We'll have the upper hand. But only if you're willing to step out of the shadows. As the implications of his proposal washed over me, my heart pounded with a mix of enthusiasm and apprehension. I glanced sideways at Ethan, searching for his thoughts. Jess, he began, hesitance lingering in his tone. Can we really do this? I interrupted, the desperate hope swelling inside me. He molded over, the weight of possibility pressing down on his shoulders. We have been waiting for a chance to fight. If we want to keep each other, to preserve this connection, we have a flicker of determination ignited in his eyes, pulling me into the urgency of the moment. Then we have to. We can't just allow them to dictate our lives any longer. Just as we were reaching a decision, the air shifted abruptly. I felt it in my bones, an ominous vibration that thrummed through the atmosphere. The hair on my arms stood at attention, and my instincts screamed for me to run. Go. Donovan barked, his eyes wide as he pulled out his phone, glancing over his shoulder with urgency. Now, what's happening? Ethan shot back, panic swelling in his voice, but before Donovan could respond, the low rumble of an engine broke through the stillness, and headlights lanced through the darkness, illuminating our faces. A sleek black SUV lurched to a stop just beyond the trees, and the unmistakable outline of figures emerged from within. Ethan. Jessica. The voice was like ice slicing through warmth. It was Ethan's father, flanked by security personnel, their expressions hard and unforgiving. My heart plummeted at the sight, the reality crashing over us like a tidal wave. What do we do? Ethan gasped, fear lurking in his eyes. Stick together. Donovan shouted, stepping into a protective stance. If they want a fight, well, show them one. Just as they began to close in, the world around us felt suspended in time. My heart raced, thoughts spiraling as I clutched Ethan's hand, fear and hope intertwining painfully. And in that moment, I knew whether this was the beginning of salvation or destruction, everything was about to change. The standoff felt like an eternity, a suspended moment where reality began to blur at the edges. Ethan stood beside me, his presence both a comfort and a tether to the swirling chaos. My fingers entwined with his, grounding us amidst the impending storm that loomed just beyond the flickering streetlight. Step away from them. Ethan's father bellowed, his voice crackling with authority. You aren't equipped to understand the gravity of your choices, son. The atmosphere grew electric, charged with confrontational intent. I could see the hardened expressions of Ethan's father and his looming security detail, a wall of corporate power ready to assert its dominance. My heart thudded in my chest, reeling in the weight of this moment as the darkness around us deepened. Donovan stepped forward valiantly, a shield between us and the threatening forces. We won't back down. If you think you can control them, you're mistaken. They have a future beyond your grasp. His words struck like sparks, igniting something inside me, a mix of rebellion and readiness. Ethan glanced at me, a flicker of defiance igniting behind the fear in his eyes. Dad, I'm choosing my own path. I'm not the person you want me to be. Choose. His father scoffed. You still think you have a choice? Your ideals might be noble, but they will lead to ruin for you and her. The urgency of the conversation escalated, and suddenly, the air grew stifling. I couldn't allow their fear to pin us to the ground. Ethan. You have every right to love whoever you choose, I yelled, steeling my voice against the tide of authority. We will not be pushed aside. Silence hung heavily in the air for a moment. Then, Ethan's father's lip curled, his disdain tangling with disbelief. You think this is just a matter of love? This isn't a fairy tale. It's a business, you don't get to rewrite the rules. With every word that emerged from him, I felt our bond strengthening. Love is more powerful than your business legacy, I asserted, my heart racing as I let the fight for our future spill from my lips. You underestimate what we are willing to do for each other. Ethan squeezed my hand tighter, electricity surging between USA promise of resilience. You cannot control my heart, father. Jessica is my choice and my future, no matter how you see it. A moment passed, a dangerous pulse thrumming through the air, and I felt my breath quicken. Frustration coursed through the veins of Ethan's father as he turned to Donovan with disdain. You're the one who's led them astray. You will pay for this. Donovan held his ground, leaving no room for doubt. We won't stand down or be intimidated, and neither will they, but the moment shattered. From behind, I heard a rush of footsteps, guards moving in, ready to seize control of the situation. Panic surged through me. We need to move. Now. I urged, realizing that finishing this confrontation was no longer an option. Run! Donovan shouted, and it felt as though the world was imploding around us as he pivoted towards the alley, leading us to safety. The adrenaline surged, propelling us forward through the shadowy path behind the building. I held tightly to Ethan, fear mingling with hope, for a split second allowing myself to believe in the possibility of a tomorrow. Footsteps echoed in pursuit, every sound heightening our senses. Stay close. Donovan urged, leading us further into the maze of darkness behind the cafe. Ethan's breath was ragged beside me. Where are we going? To a safe place. Donovan glanced over his shoulder, urgency coloring his expression. They won't stop until they have you back under their control. You need to be prepared. What do you mean? I gasped, turning to him even as we sprinted forward. That if they cannot win you over with control, they will turn to manipulation. They will leverage fear against you, Jessica. They will threaten what is precious to you, Donovan warned, his gaze sharp and intense. My heart plummeted, each word resonating with an unsettling truth. The threats loomed above us like an impending storm cloud, and the realization hit hard. Our love was intertwined with a complexity that spread far beyond us, entangled in the legacy of our families. Yes, I loved Ethan fiercely, but now I was facing the truth that came with that love: potential loss, potential heartbreak. Eventually, we ducked into a hidden doorway, leaning against the cool metal and panting for breath. What's the plan now? Ethan said, trying to calm the whirlwind within him, but his eyes held the storm. Now, Donovan breathed, visibly gathering his thoughts, we prepare to fight. We need to find allies, and people who would stand up against your family's influence. We need to gather strength. I nodded, feeling the fire of determination flicker within me once more. They might try to tear us apart, but we won't let them have that power. Ethan clenched his jaw, the resolve surging behind his gaze. I won't stand by and let them dictate our futures. I won't let them manipulate Jessica anymore. Time seemed to slow as the weight of those sentiments settled between us. Every emotion, every secret, coalesced into a singular truth: we had to confront the darkness together, or fear and legacy would suffocate our love. Suddenly, the door creaked open, and we were met by a figure cloaked in shadows. My heart raced anew at the unexpected entry, ready to flee again at the darkness that lingered. Who are you? I questioned, every nerve on high alert. The light revealed a familiar face. Rachel. Ethan said, shock rippling through him. I'm here to help, Rachel confirmed, her eyes steady, holding a truth we hadn't anticipated. In that moment, with darkness surrounding us and our enemies drawing nearer, the shifting depths of our battle became manifest. Together, I whispered, uncertainty dangling precariously before us. Yes, Ethan replied, the clarity flooding into his expression. Together. And in that unity, we steeled ourselves against the storm. Days turned into nights as we built our defenses and fortified our resolve. Each whispered conversation with Rachel and Donovan, plotting and planning, made the future feel less like an impending trap, and more like a potential path forward, a grand exchange of vulnerability for strength, love for sacrifice. Every time we caught wind of a whisper from the family, a move was made. The stakes heightened, the drama thickened. But through it all, we anchored ourselves in the truth: what we had was worth fighting for, worth risking everything. A love that broke through the chains of expectation, clawing for freedom. Finally, the day of reckoning arrived. We stood shoulder to shoulder in the bustling city square, the sun illuminating the path ahead. A crowd had gathered, fueled by curiosity and whispers of the family's looming threats. Ethan turned to me, his voice low but filled with conviction. "No matter what happens today, I choose you." That I smiled, the warmth of his words dousing the anxieties pooling in my gut. "And I choose you. Forever." As we stepped forward together, hearts pounding in time with each other, I knew we had already won the battle, not just against our families but against the fear that sought to separating our destinies. In that pivotal moment, with the world watching, we drew strength from each other. We were no longer pawns in someone else's game, but players of our own story, and together, we were unstoppable. "No turning back now," I whispered, framing his face between my hands, holding on to his truth as the crowd simmered around us. For in the fight to forge our path, we discovered what forgiveness, acceptance, and fighting fiercely meant. It enveloped us in a profound way that colluded against the chaos we came from. As Ethan nodded, a flicker of hope ignited deep within him, illuminating the strength we had cultivated, and together, we took that first step into the unknown, hearts brimming with love that was resolute, everlasting. And I knew a love this fierce, a choice this bold, could move mountains and pave roads to resilience worth traveling. Together, we echoed into the thrumming silence, born anew against the delicate balance of fate. And in that moment, I understood deeply, the greatest battles often lead to the most beautiful resolutions.